and then she laughed.
We're broadcasting, Finn.
Oh, hello. We're still in this, is it First World War?
Yes.
Yeah, First World War, and Simon and the wing commander to-be, because he's not a wing commander yet, are fighting something awful that's up in the sky. No werewolf in this week's episode, but it's getting there. Yeah, so enjoy. Go check out our description. Go and follow us on, what's it called? Spotify. And yeah, remember, we sort of really like you lots. Thanks. Bye.
For fuck's sake.
The future wing commander, Montgomery Fortescue III. The thing about a BE-2C is that it's not really designed for war. What is the BE-2C? Really? It's a bally plane. Did they teach you nothing in history? Anyway, it was designed, well, if designed is the correct term, as far as I can tell, to terrify the pilot and baffle the enemy with its lack of agility. It was no fighter really, but a decent enough bomber. What it was really is, well, it's what we had. Describing it, what say I? It's basically a poorly made drying rack with canvas stuck to it. A thing strung together with piano wire, glue, and an egregious amount of belief in its ability to fly. We bolted a Vickers gun to the front and a Lewis for the observer and called it a fighter, though the plane itself seemed to disagree violently with the concept. If we fired the Lewis and the Vickers forward at the same time, the plane would slow down significantly and almost fall out of the sky. Anyway, that's what we had to fight it with, or annoy it with. I don't bally know what we were thinking or really what we were doing. We had no plan other than to get the planes up there, and so we threw 3 planes at the sky, the last 3 planes we had. Six men in total had the gumption and the go to go test themselves against the thing. True bravery, true heroes, yet all of them under 24, fine fellows to a T. These plucky chaps were the last sane creatures in that sky-gone feral once there. It was a terrifying, rolling beast of a thing with those possessed airships at its centre, blasting out lightning like bloody Zeus himself from Mount Olympus. We should have left it. We should have remained cowering on the ground. We should have hidden in fear as whatever it was alive and hunting for prey. Sadly, that prey could be us in this case. No, we must do our task, distract it for the madman below to work his, difficult to believe I'm going to say this, but to work his magic. The sky beast didn't just roll in, it hunted, clouds the colour of old bruises folded over one another, growling. Lightning didn't flash, it reached, clawed, prowled, snapping across the sky with teeth. The air itself was thick with the stink of ozone and burning metal, and every gust of wind felt like it wanted you dead, which I'm sure it did. And in the middle of this nightmare, the airships. They weren't drifting like proper zeppelins, they were writhing, their skins bulged and cracked, lightning slithered across their flanks, and the ropes beneath them dangled like tentacles. Possessed machines wearing the storm like a crown. From the ground I could imagine they looked magnificent, but from the cockpit of a BE-2C they looked like gods. Like gods had decided to reanimate dead whales and set them to feeding on souls of men. The first run nearly killed us before we'd even seen the bastards properly. The turbulence hit like a drunk throwing a punch in a crowded pub. Unexpected, brutal, and delivered with staggering enthusiasm. The plane lurched beneath me, canvas flapping, struts groaning like a pensioner's knees. My observer, young Collingwood, clung to the Lewis gun like a drowning man to a plank. "Bit bumpy, sir," he shouted over the slipstream. "Bit bumpy," I yelled back. "I've seen less movement in a kangaroo court." And then the airship ahead turned. Not banked, not turned like an aircraft, but turned like a face slowly registering your existence. Lightning crawled across its skin in spirals, and the storm howled as though the thing were drawing breath. Collingwood screamed his rage at it. Fair felt the hairs on the back of my neck rise as he bellowed curses and opened fire. He wasn't badly scared, he was angry. The Lewis gun rattled, brass casings flying, tracers sparking into the monster's shape. For a glorious second, we might actually be doing something. Then the airship wailed its discomfort, a terrible sound, I have to tell you. Gives me the shudders when I hark back to that night over a quiet drink. Ooh. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me what vocal cords a machine of silk, gas and steel could possibly possess, but the sound was there, tearing through my head, vibrating in my ribs, a sound made of thunder, knives and broken prayers. And a moment later, a bolt of lightning the width of a church tower came down and swallowed the plane to our left. The flash blinded me for a moment, and our plane went into one of those awkward, strange floppy dives that they often do. I blinked my eyes until my vision returned and searched the sky for my other fellow flyers. One plane remained, the other must have, well, just gone. Was it now that puff of fire and black smoke spiraling into the rain? Gone was Hargreaves. Gone was Jenkins. Friends? Oh, no, not really. It was worse than that. They were boys who had shared a terrified joke while they shivered in fear half an hour before, and they trusted me. They trusted me to keep them safe. I gritted my teeth. I would no longer just be a distraction. I was going to be an avenging angel of sorts. Well, in that moment I thought that I would be, but my mind was soon changed. The storm didn't care about me fighting back. The storm was just hungry. We fought. Of course we fought. That's what the British do. We fight until we, well, don't, mainly because we're dead. Every turn was a wrestling match with the elements. Every movement shook the fuselage. I thought we were going to be torn apart at any moment. I heard several wires go pink. I heard something tear behind me, but I made sure I didn't look. I focused on the things. Just stay in that bloody air! I yelled at the bucking biplane. The stick jerked in my hands like it had opinions. The plane was trying to add its own influence to the happenings. It felt scared, no wonder. Come on, you bucket! I yelled at her. No, I was being unfair. The old girl was trying, so I changed my tone, cajoling her gently. Come on, we've got this. She seemed to take that well. The wings shuddered and the rain slapped so hard it felt personal. I could feel the aircraft wanted to come apart, every gust testing the bolts, the wood, my sanity, but she held it together. She was a very plucky little filly. I scanned the heavens that were doing their best impression of, well, being hell. Where was... oh no. Had... oh no. Then out of the maelstrom, it was there. The sense of relief was palpable. The second plane spun away, diving under the belly of one of the Leviathans. A daring move, a brilliant move. I watched him while Collingwood still fired his Lewis gun at the beast in the sky, although his curses seemed to be doing more damage than any of the shots he took. Then I saw that fateful move of sheer bravery by the other plane. I saw that it wasn't a brave move, it was a fateful one. A streak of white light cracked downwards, slicing the sky in two. No! I screamed into the darkness, but it did not do any good. When my eyes cleared again, the second plane was nothing but falling embers. 2 more men gone. Now it was just us. Tears filled the corners of my eyes. Good people die in the pursuit of others once, I find. We were the plane now. We were the distraction. One Vickers, almost out of shells. One lad with a Lewis gun and a grin that was already turning manic. He'd got the blood fury. He was not cognizant of reality right now. How could he be? This was not reality. We were a gnat against a titan. But gnats bite and irritate, distract, and as long as we did that for long enough, hopefully, the professor would do something. I couldn't imagine what he could do against this, but it was the only choice. What could he do with a glowing circle of water on the ground? I laughed at the ridiculousness of this situation. I was going to die for what? Blast it. I was going to die, but I would go on being the most annoying gnat that Britain had yet created. A far superior gnat than even the bastard midge of the Highlands. Tally-ho! I yelled. It did not feel enough. Then I remembered the Glaswegian Lewis as I fired a quick burst. Stitch that, you bastard! Definitely more effective in feeling than tally-ho. He had a way with words, did old Lewis. We dove, we climbed, we corkscrewed until the world was a blur of black rain on white fire. I fired until the barrel smoked, until my hands blistered on the trigger, until my voice was gone from screaming. Collingwood kept reloading, kept firing, kept laughing like a lunatic who'd misplaced his straitjacket. Then the storm reached out and killed him. A single bolt just snatched him straight from the cockpit. One instant, He was there, shouting something about hitting a gas bag. The next, it was a shape of light and then nothing. His Lewis gun just clattered uselessly as his body vanished into the roaring dark. Oh, no! I screamed into the night. I should have broken then. I should have wept or cursed or given up, but I didn't. British men do not stiff up a lip and all that bosh. Also, I had been joined in the plane. The bitch. Look. Green-eyed, smirking. Impossible look. She still had my back. In fact, she had replaced my observer. A green-eyed beauty now sat in the seat. No, not green irises, but green glowing orbs for eyes. She was dressed in an aviator's gear and gave me a smile as she set herself up on the Lewis as though she had been using one for years. She started firing, which was actually bloody impossible, as there was nothing left on board to fire with, not a single shell. This was luck, not giving me luck. Lady Luck was, well, this time she was really helping me out. Every dive the sky beast missed us, and she would smile. Every claw of lightning raked the air inches from my wings, and then she would laugh. Every impossible gust somehow pushed me away from death instead of into it. I should have been dead a dozen times already, and below I could see it happening. The Professor's circle, the airfield glowing, a lattice of light, pushing back the storm. Clear sky was bleeding through the darkness like a wound in the heavens. It was a moment that made me realize that this could work. He was doing it. It made me snarl and fly harder into the storm. Lady Luck she was laughing hysterically. I smiled. This felt correct. It felt good. The Professor's magic clawed and tore through the clouds. The storm beast was screaming now in pain. It was being hurt. He was winning. He shoved the airships back and picking the storm one thread at a time. But it wasn't happening fast enough, not nearly fast enough. I still had to be an annoying bastard for a little longer. And I have to say, I was doing a damn fine job. I have a knack of, being annoying. So I danced with the Lady Luck and the Sky Wolves for a little longer. And then one of the great brutes decided it had had enough. It had taken notice of the irritation. It was going to swat the fly. The lead airship, if lead is even a word for something possessed, twisted in the sky. Lightning coiled round it, and it felt like it was looking at me, truly looking. The noises it made were terrifying. Its gaze was, and then it reached out. Not with fire, not with wind, with a grasping claw of sorts. The plane shuddered as it pinched us out of the sky. I turned to look. She dropped the gun and saluted as she just dissolved away into the cloud. I smiled ruefully. Maybe my luck was done. Part of me hoped so. My stomach lurched. It felt as though an invisible hand the size of a cathedral had gripped the fuselage and was dragging us down. The ground surged upwards, faster, faster. I pulled at the stick until my arms burned, but it was like wrestling an avalanche. "Get your filthy mitts off me!" I screamed at the beast as it hurled me at the floor. Trees, grass, the faint, defiant glow of the Professor's circle, all of it hurtling up at me in excruciating detail. My head spun. The ground was coming at me very fast. And then the impact, and wood splintering, canvas shredding. The world turned inside out. I felt nothing. And then there was blackness.
The Professor. The chalk fought the rain. Why do I have to use bloody chalk anyway? Why did they decide chalk was a big thing in invocations? Wet, cold, numb, bloody fingers, and a stick of wet, slimy chalk. Gets a chap down, it does. Though I have to admit it was a worthy stick of chalk. For those who are listening to learn, magical things need good chalk. Utterly excellent chalk. That was the hardest part of it, really. Not the incantations, not the placement of sigils, each aligned with the star charts older than Christendom. Not even the blood tithe, which had cost me a perfectly good thumb-sized cut across my palm. No, none of that. It was all about the chalk. Rain didn't care about geometry. And without geometry, the circle was just a series of damp scribbles in a muddy field. Still, persistence is half the magic. The other half is arrogance, and the remainder is luck. The fractions never add up, don't worry about that, but that's why so few people practice it responsibly. Luck. Yes. I can smell her. She's here. She's mixing in tonight. I wonder who she'll choose to favor. She is somewhat a pernicious lady at times. And the last time we crossed paths, I'm afraid I did upset her quite a lot. Not good to upset that lady. Often, she's more annoying than Lucy. You know, Lucy Fur. At least Lucy has a plan for your downfall. Luck seems to have no plan at all. She seems to do whatever amuses her in that moment. Lucy? Well, you know her game. Luck? Well, she just rolls the dice when she plays chess. Nothing I can do about her right now, though. As if there was anything I could do about her anyway. Ever. She's a problem I can do nothing about. So, it's not really a problem then, is she? I grimaced as I knelt there in the mire. A gentleman of the University of Oxford in a ruined coat, sleeves soaked through, spectacles fogged, muttering dead languages under my breath while the sky tried to kill me. To be honest, it wasn't actually my worst day at the office that week. I mean, I hadn't been killed yet that day. Tuesday, on the other hand, died twice. Anyway, I must focus. And against all expectations, it began to work. The circle glowed faintly. First, the color of dying embers, then the pale white of moonlight. I took off my useless bloody glasses and threw them into the night. I didn't need them anyway, just a stupid affectation of mine. With all this rain, they weren't even see-through, never mind fashionable. I broke my Latin eulogy for a moment and used good old English to add some power to the magic.
Come on, you utter bastard!
I yelled at the dull ring before going back to repeating the spell for the umpteenth time. It started to glow a little brighter. Swearing helped. I must remember to write this in my notes. If you square at the circle, it will brighten. What were the exact words? Utter bastard was definitely in there somewhere. Lightning hit the dirt about 4 inches from my feet. The ground exploded, and I hit the floor face first, hands over my ears, as earth, grass, and stones were blasted about me. I mean, I say floor, but by now it was no longer lush grass. No, it was more of a muddy mess. Nice. I had to spit to clear my mouth of watery grit.
Not my day!
I yelled at the seething sky.
Why do I bloody do this shit anyway? No one's ever bloody grateful.
I rolled sausage-like onto my back with a sickening squelch and sighed before getting back to my feet.
And why don't you do me a favor and just fuck off out of it?
I yelled at the airships now passing above me. Future note: telling possessed zeppelins to fuck off did not help in the least. Lightning strike just this time I just stood and took the blast.
Fuck you!
I yelled. I was losing it a little bit, if I'm honest. I mean, I can't die. I can, but I come back, you understand. But those things up there are after more than your life, you see. They were only here because they would willingly do the deed asked, their payment being the souls of those they killed. And sadly, well, I've only got one of those. And that was, by now, already owned. Not by myself either, at this time, which was annoying. So I really couldn't afford to lose it, you know. The air trembled. The storm pressed against it like a wild animal meeting glass. Clouds shifted, split, and peeled back. The shrieking thunder above us began to falter. I started laughing. Do you know what? It was only bloody working, wasn't it? I risked another look skyward, and I saw the final plane fall. It wasn't falling in the natural sense, not gravity's honest pull. No, the little canvas and wood contraption had been slammed, shoved earthward as if some titanic hand had reached out of the clouds and decided to swat it like a fly. The sound, God above, the sound of it hitting the ground was like a church collapsing. I paused for a moment, struck dumb. Rain ran off the end of my nose. The world appeared to take a breath with me. I'd forgotten my Latin, forgot my sigils, forgot the 1,001 careful, precise calculations that kept me alive and sane while I meddled in forces designed to shred both. I saw more good men die and give their whole selves. This was not good enough. And something in me snapped. I stepped into the circle, something no one should ever do for future note. It leaves you open to the denizens of other planes. But I stood there, rain soaking through to my bones.
Right, you utter bastards. Here I come. You have pissed me right off now. So you are gonna get both barrels.
And I roared, lifting my arms to the heavens. I felt the power shudder through me into the sky. Words left my throat that no human mouth was built to shape. Words I did not know. They blistered the air, and they boiled the rain. The chalk hissed, it flared, and it burned white hot. A shadow of a woman with green glowing eyes outside the circle cavorted in a dance. Ah, luck was on my side, was she? I called on something darker than even those things in the sky. An ancient thing. It would be angry that they'd entered its realm. I just had to wake it and make it aware of them. And the sea answered my call. I started laughing. Well, it would be wrong to say I don't enjoy my work. The power I sometimes play with is intoxicating. What answered me was not the North Sea, not any familiar tide, but something deeper, something older than the very tides. And the earth shuddered and split around me as the answering Leviathan pulled itself into the world. The ocean surged, not seawater, but black, abyssal water that smelt of salt and iron and ancient grief. From it, shapes shot into the horror of the heavens. Tentacles, vast as cathedrals, leapt skywards to grab and hold, grip and pull. eyes the size of ships, each one unblinking, each one older than mankind, looked out of the arcane past at this war in the sky. I started to laugh again. Now, slightly hysterically.
You bastards are utterly fucked now!
I shouted at the blimps above me and saluted them with the ancient archer's salute of 2 fingers shown on each hand. Not magical, no, but it felt right. Right childish maybe, but we all have an inner child, do we not? A mouth opened wide in the sea. Perhaps a mouth. Though it's a mercy of the human brain that I can't recall its exact form. The storm recoiled. It recognized something much more powerful than evil itself had raised its ugly head. The airships, those writhing, possessed beasts of silk and steel, howled their electric screams as the thing from the sea rose up to greet them. And they were seized, dragged downward, crushed into a metal pulp and canvas rags as easily as a child might crumple a paper toy. The sky bled fire. The storm bled screams. And then silence. Bubbles broke the water's surface once, twice, and then the black tide retreated, dragging its catch with it, back into the deep. And the airships were gone. The storm was gone. The Leviathan was gone. It had done what was needed. I had done what was needed. And all was done. And so, at last, fuck, I was done. Why, you ask? Well, because no human mind can truly bear the weight of holding the abyss open. The dancer outside the circle stopped and curtsied. I gave her a thankful wave before she whirled away into the dark. My legs gave way. The circle guttered out, and I fell face first, gratefully this time, into the mud at my feet. Unconscious, my last thought, a bitter one. God help us if it comes back. Any of it. Because I am done.
First sensation, pressure. Not pain, not fire, not a heavenly choir one might sort of be expecting after a plummet out of the sky at speed. Well, a speed usually reserved for a barrel full of bricks, but the simple, undeniable pressure of a full bladder. Bugger, I muttered without opening my eyes. Survived the bores, the weather, and God's own lightning bolt, only to wet myself in the wreckage. I mean, a chap can't be doing that. I started to ready myself for the old eye-opening event. I thought I would go left eye first, even though everything ached in my body and felt unresponsive, even my eyelids. Something then squawked. I winced as I cracked an eye. A seagull, a fat, oily, one-eyed brute with a sort of expression that suggested it knew precisely that it wanted, and what it wanted was my soul. "Bugger off," I told it firmly through cracked lips. The gull squawked louder, then hopped a few inches closer, just to make its bloody point. I closed my eyes again and checked into the parts of my body mentally, tallying up what was still there. It all hurt, so it was all still there, I assume. I sighed and forced my eyes open on the second attempt and sat up, whoa, a little too quickly at first, which made alarm bells ring in my whirling head, and I lay back down for a moment to gather some fortitude for the next attempt. Slowly, carefully, the way a man does when he expects to find bones sticking out in wrong directions, I rose. Except none were. I mean, my bones weren't sticking out. Not a scratch. Not a bruise. My uniform was a little singed. Oh no, singed! I reached for my moustache. Oh, thank goodness. It was still there, and it only smelled faintly of ozone, but otherwise perfectly intact. Not the case for the BE2C. It was now distributed across roughly 100 yards of Scottish coastline, looking more like kindling for an enthusiastic bonfire than a functioning aircraft. I blinked, I rubbed up my face and finally managed to stand. The world around me looked and felt very wrong. Montrose Air Station had been a patch of wind-blown nothing even on its best days, a scattering of huts, a couple of hangars, a stretch of flat ground for pretending you could land a biplane there without dying. Now it looked as if God had dropped a hammer on it. One hangar was a blackened skeleton, its roof peeled back like the lid of a sardine tin. Another had simply collapsed, timbers smoking gently in the soft morning breeze. The mess hall had lost half its roof, the windows blown out, the smell of charred bacon drifting faintly from within made my belly gurgle, it did. The grass that was left of it, well, what was left of it, was pocked with scorch marks and craters as though lightning had decided to take up skeet shooting. Struts and fabric from other planes lay scattered across the field, torn and burnt, flapping sadly in the breeze like flags from a defeated army. And the silence. That was the worst of it. The storm had roared, howled, screamed with a voice like 1,000 devils, and now there was almost nothing, just the lazy call of gulls and the quiet hiss of something still smouldering in the wreckage. "Lucky old Monty," I muttered, half in wonder, half in shame. It was wrong of me to have survived this. Nothing should have survived this. I remembered the other two planes. 6 men had gone up, 5 of them, well, they had not come back down. I was alone, standing, my bladder was full, under the bright, beautiful sky of a brand new morning. There wasn't a cloud in sight, as if the storm had never been. "Well, somewhat of a mess, what say you?" I said to the seagull. Thankfully, it made no reply. I had lost my observer, Paul Collingwood, a good lad, steady hands on the Lewis gun, gone in a flash of lightning, the kind of death the world would call instant and merciful, though it was neither to the man standing here alive. I tottered shakily on my feet and began walking, my boots crunched over twisted struts, snapped wires and fabric torn to shreds and ribbons. I should be dead. I wasn't. Halfway across the field, something glinted in the grass. I stooped, plucked it up. My watch. I shook it and held it to my ear, still ticking, stubborn as ever. "Well," I said aloud, turning it over in my hand, "not bad for a plummet out of heaven. I'm bloody charmed indeed, clearly." The words tasted sour. Charmed, yes I am, but what use was charm when everyone else wasn't charmed? I pressed on past scorched earth and splintered hangars until at last I found him. The Professor, Sir Simon de Montfort himself, flat on his back beside a ring of burnt grass as though the earth had caught fire and then politely gone out again. The circle he'd drawn was still visible, a faint shimmer in the air, the grass within it blackened and crisp. Whatever he'd done here, it worked, but at a cost. I stood over him for a moment, hands on hips, and gave him a cautious prod with the toe of my boot. He suddenly gasped, "Oh, awful ragged sound," and sat bolt upright, his eyes snapped open, wide, ancient, and filled with things no sane man should remember. I stumbled back, nearly dropped my bally watch. "Christ, man, don't do that! Nearly had me filling my trousers right here!" I told him, shocked. He managed a wry smile, though my heart still hammered.
"You're lucky to be alive, aren't you?"
He said with a somewhat knowing tone. He turned his head slowly, studying me with the same inscrutable battlefield-worn look he had worn the night before.
"Lucky,"
he repeated, voice hoarse, then with a suspicion sharp enough to cut steel.
"Tell me, Montgomery, what exactly are you?"
Thanks for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making it. Remember, you can buy us coffees if you go to the description if you want to reward us for our hard work and all that kind of stuff. There's also loads of stuff in there, like you can get apparel from Odin Apparel. You can get a t-shirt, Werewolf the Podcast t-shirt. You can go to Grendel Press. You can buy loads of their books, because I've not found a bad one yet. And remember, from the bottom of our hearts, we love you.